All right, let's dive into this inner work thing. We're looking at purpose, a chapter from Pure Consciousness, Taking on the Way Inside, a book that wants to make life, you know, simpler, more meaningful, maybe even less full of suffering.
Like a practical guide, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's all about working from the inside out, which is kind of different.
It really sets the stage, because we all want a better life, health, happiness, the whole deal.
Yeah, for sure.
But we always think, oh, if I get that job or meet the right person, then bam, happiness.
Totally. But this chapter kind of makes you think, is it really that simple?
Not really, no. It's more like working on yourself first is where it's at.
Working on ourselves, huh? It feels like, I don't know, staring into this huge void.
It can, especially with all the info out there now.
Right. It's like, where do you even start?
And the chapter gets that, it really does. But then it gives you this framework, these inner tools, they call it.
Inner tools.
Yeah, like your rational mind, imagination, intuition, and
I like that. Inner tools.
and inner sensitivity.
So it's not just like thinking about feelings, it's
Yeah.
more active.
Exactly. The author compares it to physical exercise,
Oh, okay.
inner world gymnastics.
Inner world gymnastics. All right, I'm with you. So how does this purpose chapter, how does it actually guide us?
So it's less like strict instructions and more like a roadmap for the rest of the book.
Okay, so depending on what you want to work on, it points you to different chapters.
Yeah, exactly. Like say you're all about figuring yourself out, really wanting to know yourself.
Mhm.
It suggests visual imagination, refreshing the brain, chapters like that.
Visual imagination, that sounds cool. What about, happiness? Most of us wouldn't say no to more of that.
Right. There's a whole chapter, discovering and cultivating happiness.
Straight to the point. But what if someone's just like stuck in their head, thoughts all over the place?
Transformation of the thought flow and consciousness beyond thoughts. Those seem to deal with that.
So managing those thoughts, finding some peace in all that noise. So we've got self-knowledge, happiness, managing thoughts. What else is in this inner gym we're talking about?
Well, there's this big emphasis on the body, the connection between body and consciousness.
Yeah, the mind-body connection.
There are chapters specifically for body care, saying it's all connected.
It sounds like there's a chapter for, well, any inner challenge you could think of.
Yeah, pretty much. And the cool thing is, while it gives you this framework, it also admits there's a lot we don't know. The author even says, I don't know exactly how these techniques work, but encourages people to just try them out.
So it's about exploring, figuring it out as you go, not about reaching some perfect state.
Exactly. It's a personal journey, this inner work. And there are some, guidelines, things to keep in mind.
Okay, guidelines. Tell me more.
First off, these techniques, they're for personal growth, helping others. Not for manipulating people, definitely not for harming anyone.
Makes sense.
And it's got to be positive, a win-win mindset, Not about conquering your inner world, more like working with it.
Working with it, not against it.
Right.
It seems like this purpose chapter, it really sets the stage for everything else.
Absolutely. But before we get into those specific chapters and techniques, there's one concept from purpose I think we should look at closer.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. Which concept?
Complete trust in reality.
Complete trust in reality. Okay, I'm listening. What's that all about?
It's about, surrendering to something bigger than yourself, even when things are tough.
Surrender, huh? That sounds intense.
It can be. But the chapter says it can be incredibly freeing, too.
All right, let's get into it then. This complete trust in reality, it sounds both kind of scary and really powerful.
It is, and I think it'll really resonate with our listeners. Okay, so complete trust in reality. Where do you even begin with something like that?
I know, right? It's like a huge concept.
Definitely. But the chapter gives us, a starting point.
Okay.
It talks about suffering, how it's just a part of life, everyone goes through it,
Yeah, for sure.
and how it can actually be, a way to grow.
Not something to avoid, but something to learn from.
Exactly. It even talks about what it calls the bottom, those times when it feels like you just want to give up.
Ooh, that's heavy stuff.
It is, but it's real, Sometimes it feels like there's just no way out.
Absolutely. But the chapter, it doesn't try to pretend it's not that bad.
No, it doesn't, but it does say, even when you're at your lowest, there's always a way up.
Always a way up. It's hard to remember that sometimes.
It is, but hitting rock bottom, it can actually, spark this desire for change.
Oh, okay.
It can't get any worse, so the only way to go is up,
Yeah, I get that. But it's still, how do you actually make that shift when you're feeling so awful?
Right, and that's where it gets interesting. It tells us to, use our rational minds, think about the history of the universe, the Big Bang, all of it.
The Big Bang. How does thinking about, space and galaxies help with our problems down here?
Well, it says when you think about how unlikely it is that we even exist, that any of this exists, it changes your perspective. Like, what if it's not all just random chance? What if there's something bigger guiding everything?
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. It's like being open to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And it talks about this, like invisible, infinite, and all-pervasive consciousness that guides everything for the good of everyone.
Okay, a universal consciousness. But what is that?
It doesn't really give a definition, which I think is on purpose, you know?
Oh.
Like, it wants you to think about it, figure it out for yourself.
So no scientific proof or anything.
It says there's no proof for it, but there's also no proof against it.
So a bit of leap of faith then.
Maybe, but it asks, what do we have to lose by considering it, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
What if believing in this actually leads to a better, more peaceful life?
Okay, I'm willing to think about it. But there's still a part of me that's like, trust the universe. Really? Especially with so much bad stuff happening, how can we trust that it's all working out when there's so much suffering?
That's a good point in the chapter. It gets that. Yeah, it acknowledges that it seems like a contradiction, suffering, and this idea of a good universal consciousness.
Because it feels like a huge contradiction.
It does, and it says maybe the key is free will, you know?
Free will.
Yeah, like if this universal consciousness doesn't control our choices, then we have the power to both do good and cause suffering.
So we're not just puppets, we actually have a role to play.
Right. And this leads to, like, maybe the hardest part of this complete trust in reality.
What's that?
It's accepting that even the bad stuff, the painful stuff, might be part of a bigger plan that's ultimately good for everyone.
Oh, wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
Especially when you're the one going through something bad, it's hard to see how it could be good for anyone.
I know, it's not easy. And the chapter says it takes a big shift in thinking, like being willing to let go of what we think we know and accept that there's so much we don't understand.
So surrendering to this universal consciousness.
Yeah.
But what does that even look like in real life?
The chapter, it gives some steps, and they might sound simple. First, it says, make a choice to believe in this all-pervasive consciousness.
Just decide to believe. That sounds almost too easy.
It might sound that way, but that's where it gets, like, real.
How so?
It's one thing to think about it, but actually choosing to believe it, to let it guide your life, that's different.
It's a total change in how you see the world, not just a thought.
Exactly. It talks about creating a new center in your mind.
A new center.
Yeah, like when you embrace this belief, it becomes the core of your thoughts, your values, everything.
So it's not forgetting everything you knew before, but seeing it all through this new lens of trust.
That's it. And the chapter gives some advice on how to do that.
Like what?
Like, make it a practice to think about this belief every day, to see everything through this understanding.
Like mental exercises to build trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And just like with exercise, it's about being consistent. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. Shifting from fear and feeling alone to trusting and feeling connected to something bigger.
That's it. But what about people who have trouble with surrender, with letting go of control?
Yeah, that can be hard.
And the chapter, it's honest about that. It says, yeah, this isn't always easy. You'll have doubts. Things will still be tough.
So no magic solution?
No, but it says, keep coming back to this belief. Keep practicing trust, even when it's hard.
Like a reminder that even on this spiritual journey, there will be bumps.
Exactly. And it even says some people might need medication to deal with suffering, and that's okay.
It's okay to use medicine.
Yeah, it doesn't say it's wrong at all. It just acknowledges that there are different ways, and it's about finding what works for you.
So it's about respecting choices, but still offering this alternative path of complete trust in reality.
Exactly. And it even says, even if you're taking medication, these ideas can still help.
Oh, interesting.
They can work together, you know? These concepts can give you a deeper understanding, maybe even help you heal.
This is all really making me think. But how does complete trust in reality actually make life better, happier? I mean, isn't that the goal?
You're right. It is about happiness. And that's where the chapter Discovering and Cultivating Happiness comes in.
Okay, tell me more.
It says happiness is something we can create inside ourselves.
I can create it.
Yeah, through remembering things, thinking rationally, using our imagination and our inner sensitivity.
So it's not just like fleeting happiness, it's a deeper kind.
Exactly. And it starts with, like, making a list of happy memories.
A happy memories list.
Yeah. But what if some of your memories aren't so happy? That's where imagination comes in.
Uh,
It says, imagine experiences that would make you happy even if they haven't happened yet.
like give yourself permission to dream.
Exactly. So you've got your list, now what? Well, the next step is to really relive those memories.
Relive them.
Yeah, like remember all the details, what you saw, heard, felt in those happy moments.
Like bringing those feelings back into the present.
Exactly. And it says, this takes practice. You might not feel it all right away,
Hmm.
but if you keep at it, you can bring those joyful feelings back.
So you're training your mind to be happier.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just remembering.
How?
It says, use your rational mind to analyze those memories. Figure out what specifically made you happy.
Like understanding what makes you tick.
Yeah. And then you can use that to create more happiness in your life
Wow.
by looking for experiences that have those same elements, those things that made you happy before.
That's like making your own recipe for happiness.
That's a great way to put it. And it also says what made you happy as a kid might not do it now.
Yeah, that makes sense. We change, our priorities change.
Right. So it says stay curious, explore new things, be open to what makes you happy now.
It's like happiness is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've gone from like the depths of it all to happiness, but there's this one thing from the purpose chapter that I really want to dig into.
The body and consciousness connection.
Yeah. We mentioned it before, but I wanted to explore it more.
It's like a whole section in the chapter, right?
Yeah.
Talking about human evolution and how it all fits into consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's saying to really get the inner world, you got to understand the physical one too.
It is.
And it reminds us, like, our bodies, they're the result of billions of years of evolution. It's pretty amazing.
It's easy to forget that.
Totally. And the chapter really makes you see your body in this whole new way. Like, every cell is a piece of history.
I like that, a history book.
It reminds you that we're not just individuals, we're part of this huge web of life.
It is a big shift in thinking.
It is. But how does this evolution stuff actually help us day to day? It seems kind of abstract.
Well, that's where the body care part comes in.
Okay.
It's about realizing your consciousness, it's not separate from your body.
Mm-hmm.
How you treat your body affects your mind, your emotions, everything.
So physical health is totally tied to the inner world.
Exactly. And it's not just food and exercise, it's how you move, your posture, even how you position your body during your inner work practices.
Wow, I never thought of that. Like the physical details can actually change your inner state.
They can. It's crazy how we don't even notice those things sometimes.
It makes you realize the inner and outer, they're always affecting each other.
They are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into purpose,
Mm-hmm.
what's the big takeaway you want our listeners to have?
The chapter, it gives you this amazing guide for inner work, connecting with yourself, trusting something bigger, finding happiness inside.
Yeah.
But it all starts with a simple question. If your inner world could talk, what would it be asking for right now?
Wow, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah,
It's like listen to that inner voice and then do something about it.
it is.
So to everyone listening, go check out the chapters in this book that speak to you. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep trusting that inner wisdom.
Yeah, keep trusting.
And until next time, happy exploring, everyone.